Dylan Mulvaney, Cruella DeVille. Now, if you don't know who Cruella DeVille is, Cruella DeVille was the villain in 101 Dalmatians. And Cruella DeVille is a pun on the words cruel and devil. Now, the reason why I'm saying Cruella DeVille is because I do feel like Dylan is playing the role of the villain. Dylan the villain. Now, since Dylan is getting all this recognition right now, I decided to do a reading. So before I get into Dylan's chart, let me just read a bit about Dylan's life. Now, Dylan Mulvaney, born December 29th, 1996, is an American actor, comedian, and TikTok personality. Mulvaney is known for detailing gender transition in daily videos on the social media platform TikTok since early 2022. In October 2022, Mulvaney spoke with U.S. President Joe Biden at the White House about transgender rights. Mulvaney has more than 10 million followers on TikTok, while Dylan's video series Days of Girlhood has received over 1 billion views. Graduated from the University of Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music in 2019 with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Musical Theater. So before we get into Dylan's chart, I'm just going to go over some of the dark-sided traits of Capricorn. And if you don't know, Capricorn is the sign of the devil. So on the dark side, Capricorn can be mean and cruel, ultra materialistic, stingy, opportunistic, exploitative, belittling, degrading, depreciation, devilish, depression, inadequacy, and dark-sided Capricorn is very much about selling your soul, but also devouring souls. Let's get into Dylan's numerology. So Dylan, birth number 29, that breaks down to 11 and 2. 29 produces high-pressure situations, also conflicts with women, internal conflict. So in Dylan's case, 2 is dealing with woman, 9 is man. With Capricorn, the conflict is over corporate sponsorships and government ties. Life path number of 12 breaks down to 3. 12 is the number of sacrifice victim. Politics is very much 3. Comedian or comedy, but also can be buffoonish. Truth, morals and ethics, excessive, over the top, ostentatious. So here's Dylan's chart. Dylan is a Pisces rising, 5th degree. Saturn and Aries conjoined to the Aries South Node in the 1st. Moon in Virgo in the 6th. Mars in Virgo in the 7th, conjoined to the Libra North Node. Chiron in Scorpio in the 8th. Pluto in Sagittarius in the 9th. Venus in Sagittarius in the 10th. Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, Neptune in Capricorn in the 11th. Uranus in Aquarius in the 12th. So with Dylan's ascendant at the 5th degree of Pisces, videos, being camera ready, makeup, glamour, drag, lies, deception, charades, illusion, possibly. The clown, Pisces rules clowns. Inclusivity, Pisces rules inclusivity. Being a media darling with the 5th degree. Modeling and film contracts. Dylan just received a modeling contract with Maybelline. Pluto square ascendant, facing hatred over promos. Dylan's charade is at risk for being exposed, perhaps, being forced to do these videos and promos that are humiliating. A university or political group, think tank could be in control of Dylan, especially with Pluto being in the 9th house. Sun sextile ascendant, Being cherished by government and corporations, getting a lot of recognition for videos, Chiron trine ascendant, identifying as trans and being awarded for it, being the poster child for the trans movement. Could just be a charade with the Pisces ascendant. North Node in Libra quincunx ascendant, learning how to walk in heels, a balancing act. Could have a problem wearing certain shoes that are made for women, being shamed by the public, akin to humiliating or making a caricature of women. Remember, Pisces is dealing with clowns, but also caricatures, was basically clowning. Pisces, for those that don't know, Pisces rules the feet and shoes, which is why I'm talking about walking in heels, issues with fitting certain shoes. This is also a drag aspect. And this can represent Dylan wanting to isolate at times. And Dylan may have always felt like an oddball or outcast. Moon opposition ascendant. The process of getting glammed up, grooming. Grooming is Virgo. Clowning, humiliating women. Performing, acting, with the moon ruling the fifth house. The fifth house is acting, performing, role-playing. Role-playing is Pisces. Persona opposes core personality and basic needs. Could be hospitalized at some point due to mental health. Being heavily medicated. Ascendant opposition academia. Academia is an asteroid that deals with higher education institutions, learning. So receiving backing from a university or some other academic institution, perhaps. Giving lectures at universities. Ascendant conjunct Sattalachiva. Sattalachiva is a star that produces success in ventures, personal charm, star of hidden things. This makes me think that this could represent Dylan's tuck game, if you know what I mean. Ascendant conjoined to Deneb Adij. That's a star that can result in being intelligent, creative, original, but also naive, a talent for writing, and being very visible in terms of the public. Ascendant parallel Zubin El Shamali. Honors, wealth, distinction, but also tragedy, melancholy, violence. Ascendant conjunct Arabic part of private enemies. Could be set up by the very people who cherishes Dylan. Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Capricorn. These two planets are Dylan's chart rulers, so they're very significant. So the 11th house placement of these planets are representing Dylan's fans and followers, but also Dylan's camp style persona. If you don't know what camp is, look it up. Being a corporate shill. At the forefront of a government/corporate led agenda. Covert operations to create a trend. Artifice, phony, perhaps. This picture ain't so bad. This is one of the better pictures of Dylan, if you ask me. This isn't bad either. Mars trine Jupiter and Neptune. These trines are largely responsible for Dylan's success. Good at role-playing, playing characters in plays. We'll probably get a movie deal soon with Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime. Dylan's face on the Bud Light can. Being a brand ambassador for corporations and a public servant for the government. The ability to fool or deceive others through a carefully crafted, manufactured persona, and that's because Mars is in Virgo. Working for a secret government agency, being a public servant, being a secret agent, perhaps, with Mars in the 7th. 7th house is agents. And especially with Mars being conjoined to that Libra North Node, the agent theme is very strong. Libra rules agents, 7th house rules agents. Jupiter and Neptune square Chiron in Scorpio. Being or feeling forced to be trans in order to become successful, perhaps, can be indicative of not really being trans. Can represent Dylan's bulge and the challenges with keeping it tucked. Talked about bottom surgery, but may choose not to get it. Major complications if Dylan gets bottom surgery. Receiving a lot of hate could trigger depression, can be exploited due to psychological disorder to fulfill a secret agenda, could have suicidal tendencies. At risk of death by drowning, could be in the bathtub, perhaps, or drug overdose, or both. Representative of surgery on jawline and forehead. Saturn conjunct South Node in Aries in the first. Classic battle of the sexes. So we're talking about the Aries South Node, Libra North Node. Aries deals with males, Libra deals with the opposite sex, so naturally females. So this opposition is basically dealing with the classic battle of the sexes. Identity is artificial with Saturn ruling the 11th house, the house of artifice and agendas. Corporate brands, government ties, recognition for identifying, rewards. We'll do anything to make it to the top. This can also play out as S&M. Challenges with the face, especially in terms of masculine skull. This can also manifest as male pattern baldness. Challenges with hair, most likely very hairy. Also could produce manly knees. A delicate flower, Dylan is not with this conjunction, especially since it is in Dylan's first house. Saturn and South Node trine Pluto in Sagittarius. This is another brand ambassador aspect in terms of like promotional deals. Identifying as trans results in success and a high level of recognition. A political power move with Pluto being in Sagittarius. Being a comedian in terms of profession, also with the Aries influence, this is improvisation, improv type of comedy. Big time influencer on social media with Saturn ruling the 11th house, receiving funding from a university or political organization, perhaps. Also furthering the trans agenda. Now, when I say trans agenda, I don't want people to get it confused because the trans agenda is not about transgender individuals, that being the end goal. They're trying to take this beyond transgender and turn it into transhumanism. You mark my words. And with Pluto being in Aquarius, you'll see that they're going to be promoting more and more of this transhumanism. So for people that believe that the powers that be, or I like to say the evils that be, is really about supporting people and people's rights, that's not it. There's a hidden agenda at work, and they're trying to break humanity down to its very last compound so that basically we can dispense with what it means to be human at some point. So I don't want people to think that, you know, this is an attack against transgender and all of that. It's not that at all, because that's not even the end goal for these people. They want to move beyond the whole humanity. Saturn and South Node opposition Mars and North Node. Degradation, belittling of women through infiltration with manufactured persona. An attack on women. Think Eve and the enmity between her and Satan. Now, I'm not a Christian, but I grew up as one. And I still have a pretty good memory of what's in the Bible. If you're not familiar with this story, I encourage you to read it. It's the Garden of Eden story. And it'll basically explain why women have basically since the beginning of humanity been treated as second-class citizens, and how women have been basically targets for termination. And now it's really coming out in the open. All the primping and prepping, grooming to appear feminine. Being a government agent, perhaps, not acting of own volition. Forced mechanical mannerisms to mimic women. And remember, Mars is conjoined to that North Node, Libra, 7th house. That's basically dealing with impersonation of women, where it's a character. Saturn and South Node, sextile Uranus in Aquarius. Success through social media, TikTok in particular, being all the rage on social media, being a trendsetter, changing identities to be successful as well as to serve a cause. This is also a drag aspect with Uranus in the 12th. It's also an androgynous aspect. It's also a gay male aspect. Here's Dylan with Drew Barrymore, and Drew Barrymore is on her knees, basically praising Dylan. Sun square Saturn and South Node. Mean, cold, cruel. Forgot that L right there, my bad. Unloving, devilish. Can be a sadist or a masochist, or perhaps both. This can produce a poor self-image, depression, lacking happiness, lacking vitality. Life could be cut short. Being under someone's control, a group with Saturn ruling the 11th house. Daddy issues, perhaps. And this can play out as acne, razor bumps, and dermatitis. Moon in Virgo, quincunx Saturn, and the South Node. This is part of the Yod aspect pattern in Dylan's chart. Represents all Dylan has to go through in order to look like a woman. Aries wins out, though. Aries is representing Dylan's facial hair, and the Virgo moon is representing a need for constant grooming, shaving, all that. Mannerisms are too wooden and rehearsed. Has to try to tone down masculine gestures, which are instinctual. Challenges with being satisfied and accepting self. Saturn and South Node, quincunx Chiron. This is the other part of the Yod. The transformation process requires some surgical procedures to reduce masculine look. FFS, say that 6 times. Surgery, that means facial feminization surgery. So this quincunx pertains to that. Could be indicative of being autogynephilic. If you don't know what that means, look it up, especially when viewed as part of the Yod. Psychological breakdowns this Yod can produce. It could show not being wrapped too tight. Also, fraudulent identity / persona is at risk for being exposed with that Yod, because Yods can deal with where things start off well and they end up blowing up in your face. Moon trine Sun. This is a very beneficial aspect for Dylan. This is representing living the good life. Being a classically trained actor. Being addressed as she, her pronouns, with Virgo representing pronouns. Corporate marketing darling. Becoming successful on social media through acting like a girl with the 365 days of girlhood, meeting the president. Moon sesqui square Mercury. Having to train to speak and gesture in feminine manner, but it comes across as too rehearsed, manufactured. This also deals with belittling. Hands may be a constant source of irritation for Dylan. Anxiety attacks when not in control of situations. Moon quincunx Uranus. Chronicling daily life on social media becomes a chore, becomes exhausting and mentally draining. Boycotts and backlash over marketing campaigns with the moon ruling the 5th house. Moon sextile Chiron. Acting, expressing self as a trans woman with Chiron being in Scorpio. Having financiers, winning awards, successful feminization surgery. Moon square Pluto, this aspect is very telling. Can produce a hatred for women. This is the epitome of the erasure of women. Also, this square can result in Dylan feeling unwanted, abused, or betrayed by mother, offending women, pissing women off, being over the top emotionally, having freakouts and bitch fits, especially with that moon in Virgo, panic attacks, overly pronounced and exaggerated mannerisms with Pluto being in Sagittarius, extreme case of OCD, being vengeful and vindictive, controversial, gassy, poor diet, and digestive health, perhaps could be bulimic even. Venus in Sagittarius semi-square Chiron explains why people are annoyed with Dylan due to the over-the-top, ostentatious, and exaggerated communication style with Venus and Sagittarius ruling that third house. Being an offensive comedian. Venus at the 15th degree, that 15 is manipulation. Represents challenges with tuck game. Sexual dysfunction due to excessive intake of hormones, perhaps. The truth may eat Dylan up inside. Riches, but with strings attached. Mars trine Uranus. This is another aspect that really helps Dylan out. Capturing the change in identity, persona on video, TikTok in particular, being openly gay, activism, serving a cause with Mars in Virgo, serving an agenda, magnetism, fans, followers, will probably be in a documentary, movies, leading a movement. Uranus sextile Pluto. I actually like this picture right here because of the colors and the social media influencer. Being a catalyst for social change or even a change in laws. Social contagion. Mercury conjunct Estrella. So Estrella is an asteroid that could deal with taking things too far. Mercury deals with communication, speech. So this can be seen as dragging out syllables, being extra dramatic when speaking. Neptune parallel Bacchus. This is the Bud Light deal since Bacchus deals with wine and intoxicating drinks. Also, Bacchus deals with revelry, debauchery, and also addictions. Chiron parallel Electra. Now, Electra is an asteroid that's based on the mythology of Electra, and it basically is dealing with one that kills one's mother, but you can look at this as like universal mother. So this is really dealing with the erasing of women, perhaps. Midheaven parallel Eurydice. Death, dancing, a stalker. These are the possible manifest, and not just death, but where it's more so foul play, you could say. Pluto conjunct Hidalgo. The trans agenda, political controversy, provocative activism. Hidalgo is an asteroid of activism, but it can also result in being condemned for who you are or what your message is. And that could even deal with court testimony at some point. Pluto contraparallel Hygeia. This is promoting Tampax, even though Dylan doesn't need it. Infectious diseases, perhaps. Mars conjunct Sisyphus. This is dealing with Dylan doing the same videos day after day with the 365 days of girlhood. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan grew tired of doing these videos every day. Here's Dylan before Dylan's transition. Saturn opposition Lilith. Being a pariah or outcast, attacking and agitating women, especially liberated women, women that are very much about defending womanhood. And this is very much about like Adam versus Lilith. If you don't know about that story, check it out. Venus opposition Minerva, being at war with women, perhaps, this is speculation based upon what's in Dylan's chart, at risk for falling injury. With Capricorn, there's always a risk of falling. Jupiter contra parallel Phaethon, at risk for falling, injury, could even result in being taken out. Mercury parallel Nike. That's the Nike deal. Moon opposition Salacia. Salacious behavior. Moon parallel Siwa, Chiron opposition Siwa. They may have Dylan in a commercial for birth control just to up the ante. Can you imagine? I wouldn't be surprised. Mars contra parallel Sophia. You can look at this as mocking the essence of women. Dylan may even take on the name of Sophia. Now, it might be a film or a play where Dylan is playing a role, or Dylan may decide to adopt this name. Chiron parallel Terpsichore. So Terpsichore deals with body movements, body language. So dancing, forced body movements, and this can represent the bulge, in particular with Chiron being in Scorpio, how Dylan has to be conscious of the bulge while dancing, moving around. Jupiter conjunct Peacock. Peacock is about vanity and a love of display, strutting your stuff. Neptune conjoined to Vesta, being a sacrifice for the elite, perhaps. Sun conjunct Fasces. Fasces can manifest as a violent death, sickness, accidents, war, leadership, coldness, detachment, combative, risk taker, glamour, perfectionism, and fulfillment. Mercury conjunct Manubrium. Manubrium can manifest as blindness or just problems with the eyesight. Explosions, fire, heat, also heroism. A lot of people do view Dylan as not a villain, but a hero. Courage, defiance, intellect, military strategy. Makes you think. Mars conjunct Markev. Temporary injury is possible. Mars conjunct Al-Qaeda. This can manifest as death, mourning, war. Moon conjunct Gomesa. This represents the weeping one, and Dylan has filmed Dylan crying and all that type of stuff. This could be a frivolous death or a death via drowning. Saturn could join the curb. Vanity, caprice, enthusiasm, ambition, bad judgment, being jilted by a lover. And because Saturn is conjoined to that, being jilted by a lover could result in Dylan falling into depression. Mercury conjunct Vega. Vega could produce luck in politics, artistic talent, fleeting fame, but also double dealing. Uranus conjoined to Dabbit. Melancholy, trouble through sexual relationships. Uranus conjunct Gietta Prima. Good fortune, peculiar events. Jupiter and Neptune conjoined to Terrabellum. Riches, but also cunning, disgrace. It can produce a rise in life or status, strength, and power. Saturn and South Node conjoined to Deneb Chaotos. Self-destruction, nervousness, illness, loss, laziness, inhibitions. Pluto conjoined to Yed posterior. This produces evil influences. It's known as the man of death. Wasteful, unseen dangers, poisoning. Pluto parallel Asha. Drowning, much travel, many changes. So that concludes my reading on Dylan Mulvaney. Let me know what you think in the comments. Basically, I feel like Dylan is just a shill for this hidden agenda. And again, it's not so much about transgender individuals. They're basically going to push us towards transhumanism. So, and it's also about the erasure of women. That's my opinion. That's my view of it. And again, women have been attacked since the beginning of humanity. And that is how this world works. It's like women were able to gain rights and recognition but now it's like they turn back the hands, and now it's basically showing that at the end of the day, it's a man's world, and it's always going to be a man's world. So yeah, that's that. Let me know what you think in the comments section. If you would like a reading, the link to my website is in the description section. Peace.